What's going on, guys, and welcome back to Top 10 Nerd. I'm your host for today, Taylor McWatters, and on today's list, we'll be looking at some more pregnant supers. Well, this time we're looking at some super villains. Yeah, everyone has kids. Villains, heroes, you name it, whatever the case is. On today's list, we'll be specifically taking a look at Marvel characters who got pregnant and kept on doing their villainous deeds. Now, sometimes these kids grow up to be better than their parents. Maybe they become superheroes, like the Runaways, which I'll mention on this list. But sometimes those kids end up being just as bad, if not even worse, than their parents before them. So without further ado, let's do it, guys. Here are the top 10 Marvel supervillains who got pregnant. Kicking off the list at number 10, we have HELA. Earth 1610 is home to the Ultimates, and in Ultimatum issue 2, we see this version of HELA make her debut. So at this point, in order to release Valkyrie from Valhalla, HELA forced Thor to fight her army of undead soldiers. So after that goes down, Thor's like, okay, cool, is there anything else I can do before I head out? You know, should I change a couple kegs? Maybe should I dust? Anything to get Valkyrie out of here, let's go. And then she starts undressing. HELA starts undressing, and then she starts to explain to Thor that she needs a heir to the throne. So he's like, okay. So he follows through, he does it, but then afterwards, HELA tells him some more information. So in order to release someone from Valhalla, somebody has to take their place, a soul for a soul in a way. So that soul to take Thor's place in order for him to leave was Valkyrie. Oof. So this son that they had was none other than Modi Thorson, and his journey begins with New Ultimates issue 5. And before we go on to number 9, guys, if you could go ahead and give this video a thumbs up, it really does help us a lot at the studio / our home studio for the time being up here in Canada. But all those likes add up and do us wonders, so thank you so much for your support. Now let's get back to the list. Number 9, Mystique. She was mentioned in All New X-Men issue 27, but this Mystique was from Earth 13729, and most of her character is the same, only this time around, she had a child with Charles Xavier, and they named that child Charles Xavier too, because, you know, that's how villains do it. So they felt as if they were unfit to raise a child, so they gave that child away. But later on, Mystique had another child, this time with a cooler name. The name was Raze. Now this child's father was Wolverine, so he's a bit more exciting, you know? And by exciting, I mean he grew up resenting his parents and eventually took out his mother and replaced her without anybody knowing. Cool. So Raze's shape-shifting powers is stronger than his mother's, and he clearly has some rage issues like his father. In X-Men, No More Humans, Raze had this ultimate plan. He was gonna basically try and remove the human population from Earth and instead fill that spot, rather, with mutants from other multiverses. So it would have been a multiverse mutant paradise. So evil, but he's got some good ideas, I think, maybe. Number 8, Carnage. Making his first appearance in the Amazing Spider-Man issue 360, Carnage is a symbiote that is the offspring of Venom, and its host is none other than Cletus Cassidy. Now, Cletus was sharing the same prison cell as Eddie Brock in the Amazing Spider-Man issue 344, so while Cletus was planning on stabbing Eddie Brock, the Venom symbiote comes to rescue Eddie, but after Brock is reunited with the Venom symbiote and it breaks out, a piece of that symbolic material attached itself to Cletus. It was left behind. So now Cletus became Carnage. And Carnage is terrifying, honestly. I'm actually really looking forward to the movie. I hope it's scary in some way, but like, he's a terrifying guy. So Carnage is this brutal offspring of Venom, and then Toxin is now a brutal offspring of Carnage. They're all having kids, that's right. And then in Venom vs. Carnage issue 2, symbiote number 1000 is born. So Toxin is actually said to be one of the strongest and most dangerous symbiote there is. So isn't that lovely? Number 7, Menace. Lily Hollister first entered Marvel Comics in Amazing Spider-Man 545. And she's the daughter of District Attorney William Hollister, and at the time, she was dating Harry Osborn. But then she stumbled across this secret door in Harry's closet, and then after poking around, she discovered some goblin tech. And then after knocking over some experimental chemicals, she absorbed them onto her skin, and then was now able to turn into this menace. Literally, her name is Menace. And things got even more wild when she got pregnant with Norman's kid, and that son was Stanley Osborn. Now, since his parents had both been exposed to the goblin formula, the boy's blood had literally had a price tag on it. So the criminal underworld wanted to get their hands on that sweet, sweet evil DNA. Dr. Octopus almost kidnapped Stanley, but luckily Peter knows how to hold a baby while he does parkour, which is amazing. This whole issue is just amazing. Number 6, parents of the Runaways. This next one is a combo piece. Okay, so the Runaways are a group of 6 kids. They were the children of these parents who would meet up once a year for this charity thing. So they were kids, so it just sounded like some adult boring stuff, right? But then one day those kids went to take a peek as to what they were really doing, and they spied and found out that they were the Pride. No, not Simba's Pride, nothing like that. The Pride was a criminal group filled with villains, like time travelers, dark wizards, aliens, mutants, you name it. Just a whole plethora of fun. So they didn't even know it, but they were children of a villain group the whole time. So they ended up stealing their parents' super tech, and then of course being the offspring of these super powered folk, they too had powers. So they combined their forces of their own and they set out to undo the damage that their evil parents had started. So that's a good case scenario. We like that. That's good stuff. Number 5, Genesis. She made her first debut in X of Swords Stasis issue 1. She's the wife of Apocalypse, and she served as a warlord by his side in Okara. Now the children were a bit different than most on this list. Their children became the first horsemen. So when Okara was being attacked by the Amenthi, Genesis ran the show. She led the mutants into battle and they came out on top. They won. Then the elder god Annihilation offered a peace treaty. That's how you know she kicks ass, when the dark god of Amenth is like, truce? So when Genesis' sister betrayed her and her people and sided with the Amenth, Genesis moved to the Amenth and then made the sacrifice, being sealed away in Amenth with those first horsemen. I said Amenth a lot, but yeah, she ended up being sealed there with her children. It was pretty dark. Number 4, Elektra. So for this one, we go over to the MC2 universe, where Elektra married Wolverine, and then soon after, of course, came a child. Now that daughter was named Rena Logan, and if that name doesn't ring a bell, she was also referred to as Wild Thing, for good reason. Yeah, let me explain. So Rena's powers are very similar to her father's, obviously. I mean, even just by looking at her, you could probably make a guess who she's an offspring of. But she also possesses the power of regenerative healing and super strength. So what makes her stand out is the psychic claws, the psychic size rather. Her minor psionic powers allow her to manifest her own claws, which is similar to Cyclops. She can inflict mental damage, but if she focused hard enough, she can have claws like her father and dish out physical damage too. Number 3, Vanessa Fisk. Vanessa made her first appearance in The Amazing Spider-Man issue 84. They met when she was only 15 years old, and not gonna lie, it's pretty dark. She was brought to him by his goon squad, and Wilson saw her natural sense of grace and depth, so they became partners, which sounds like a classic love story, but she was brought in for like awful reasons. She was gonna be used for like labor. It's just not great. She was 15, like come on dude. Now of course Kingpin is a top tier villain in both Spider-Man and Daredevil's lives, and Vanessa would mostly be on board with his evil deeds in the future. I mean, the odd time she'd be like, maybe don't do that specifically. But most of the time she was like, let's do it, Criminal Empire, all aboard. So once they had Richard, Kingpin got even more protective of her, right? This kid Richard was actually sent away by Wilson and Vanessa. He was sent to Switzerland to go to school. He studied hard, he stayed in shape, but he bragged about how rich his father was. He was one of those guys, you know? So when he turned on the news and saw that his dad was being exposed as this kingpin of crime, he was like, damn it, I gotta get out of here. I've talked way too much. He disappeared into the wilderness and he was never seen again until the next issue when he came back as a villain named the Schemer in Amazing Spider-Man issue 85. Number 2, Harness. She made her first comic book debut in New Mutants Annual 7. Her real name is Erica Benson, and she's the mother of the mutant Piecemeal who had merged with Proteus. Now her son wasn't named Piecemeal, of course. He didn't just pop out as an evil villain. He was named Gilbert, which is a great name. It sounds very friendly. He was just cursed to have to carry around part of the villain Proteus around with him in his soul. When AIM discovered this, they got Erica to take Gilbert all around the world to absorb more of these parts of Proteus, like dragging a magnet through sand to one day have this villain reborn thanks to Gilbert. She was cruel to Gilbert on purpose. She wanted this reborn villain to be as evil as possible, so she tried to be as awful as she could. Abuse in every way, I mean, it was awful. Harness is not a great mother. Poor Gilbert. And number 1, Loki. Yeah, you heard me. Okay, this one's a little bit of a stretch, I'll admit, but it's too wild not to talk about, so I'm gonna talk about it. I'm not sure when I'm gonna bring this up again, so let's do it. Loki is the shape-shifting god of mischief. He takes on all sorts of fun appearances. Like in Thor Ragnarok, there's a fun little scene where Thor thought he was picking up a snake, and it was actually Loki. Good, clean comedy. So he does it often. But at one point in the comics, in order to prevent having to pay a debt, Loki turned himself into a horse, and then while he was a horse, he gave birth to an 8-legged animal that became a fan favorite of Odin's, a horse named Sleipnir. So yeah, of course I gotta finish with that one. Loki's giving birth to a horse. So I hope that image lives in your head rent-free as well as it does mine. Guys, there you have it. Those are 10 Marvel villains who got pregnant. Some in rather unusual ways, but hey, that's comic books for you. Guys, thanks so much for tuning in to Top 10 Nerd. I've been your host, Taylor McWatters. Leave a comment down below, hit us a like, and we'll see you the next time. Stay safe.